So after you worked on the GCF, so the GCF is actually like the first type of factoring. Factoring trinomials is a Math 2 skill. And you will see also here, look how much Mathia has practice on this. So if you haven't gotten to Introduction to Factoring yet in Mathia, I can skip you forward before the final. But this factoring, there's a lot of work, and I think some of you have already done it. So some of you are already probably proficient at this. So here we have an equation. It is in standard form, and we might ask ourselves, hey, can you guys factor out a GCF? Well, there's no number in the front of here, so I can't do a number, and there's an X, like a variable here and here, but not a variable here. So the answer is there is actually no GCF, so we can't do the original form of factoring where there's just a number in the front. Instead, we are gonna go backwards, since it's standard form, from what would have been on the side of the box before we did our double distributing. So remembering that our double distributing is when we get the x squared here and the 16 here, and then two things here to combine like terms to get this as our answer. We are now trying to go backwards. So consider this equation. Here is the parabola. They're not making you do this yet. They're just asking you, what are the roots of the equation? Hey, look at this with your eyeballs. So this is eyeball method. This is graph method. What are the roots? Solve this equation. Well, hopefully you know the root is here, and there's another one here. The roots are the x-intercepts, so we go, oh, the roots, I saw them with my eyeballs. The roots are -8. -2. X equals -8. X equals -2 if you're asking for solutions. So here are the two roots, here are the two solutions. Oh, sorry, I'm zooming in, this is R2. Rewrite the original equation in factored form. Well, you guys already know how to do that. If that's R1 and that's R2, and this is an equation from standard form, I can rewrite this as, well, if that's a -8, I make this +8. If that's a -2, I make this +2. This is our factored form. We were working on doing this together when I left a month ago. Voila. So if you're in Desmos and you graph this, type this in, you will type this in. If you type in this separately, they will give you the exact same quadratic. So this is equivalent to this initial equation, just that this one is standard and this one is factored form. So we did that by looking at the graph, but how do we go from this form to this form with the box method, pretending that maybe in the future we won't have a graph because that's the way it be. So on your next page, we have a worked example using the box method. So this is the #1 strategy that students learn how to do, which is trying to figure out what went on the sides of the box before to get us x squared plus 16. So it's really nice when we have our x squared by itself. You are going to start with ones with only x squared. We're going to say, well, if that's an x squared in here, and this is like a Punnett square, that has to be an x, and that has to be an x. It's like, sweet. So now it's x plus what and x plus what to get us 16. So what times what is 16? Well, this could be a 4 times a 4. And if that's a 4 and that's a 4, that would get us 16. But now we see though, if that's a 4 and that's a 4, I would multiply the Punnett square to be 4x plus 4x, and that is not gonna be 10x. So there is some guessing and checking involved. You need to figure out the two numbers that multiply to 16, but they also have to add up to 10. You've already probably figured it out. In this case, it can't be 4 and 4. It has to be 8 and 2, because 8 and 2 add up to 10. So again, you've probably done this a lot of times. You don't need to listen to this video if you already feel proficient at it, but that's your method. So Determine the two factors of the leading term and write them in the table. I just kind of actually did it for you. So we're supposed to say that that's an 8 and that's a 2. You could also say that the 8 goes here and the 2 goes here. They're equivalent, but down here it has your answer. So your first step is to fill in the x, and your second step is to fill in the 8 and the 2. So this worked example is the way you are going to do it. You're going to start here, you're going to fill in as much as you can on the sides, and then you're going to fill in the other sides because the sum of 2x and 8x is 10x. So what we initially started with will have to be this. Explain why the other factor pairs for c equals 16 don't work. Well, let's see, the factor pairs mean like 4 times 4 is 16, 16 times 1 is 16. I think that's it, because we already used 8 and 2. So these don't work. 4 times 4 would give us 4x plus 4x for the other two, and 16x would give 16x plus 1x. And that is not equal to 10. That would give me 8x, and that would give me 17x. And those won't work because the initial we started with had a 10x. So that won't work, and that won't work. But 8 and 2, but 8x plus 2x is 10x. So those are the two numbers you have to use. Okay, use the worked example to factor each trinomial. So again, for this step, you have to first put in this up here. We know that x times x is always x squared. And then you always put this right here. So for this one, you're trying to find two numbers that add up to 16, but this time they need, or sorry, that multiply to 16, but this time they need to add to 17. This time they multiply to negative 16 and they add up to 6. So you have to figure out what goes on the sides, and then the things on the sides are your answer. So your final answer needs to be the two things on the side, x plus what and x plus what, x plus what and x plus what and x plus what and x plus what. All right, the next one, you can do your own box, and then you're gonna critique these people. This is our last thing that will absolutely be on the final. You will have to study for this. There's a lot of practice. Here it says you can choose. So on this page, page 736, you're going to just match which one goes where. And then you have a word bank here for the very, very end. And that's all you have to do today. Through page 736 or 737 if you're, wanting to do more. Okie dokie, that's it for you. Expect some worksheets coming. Yep, adios.